Happy Monday. Welcome to Season 4 of the Collaboration Conversation. Season 4. That's an Easter egg. If you don't know what it is, find it. Welcome, you guys. We are so excited to be back for another season. That means how many episodes have we done, ish?
Oh, my word.
We're at like 100 now.
No.
Oh.
At the end of the season, it'll be 100.
It'll be 100.
75-ish.
That's crazy. When we started this, 2 years ago, 2 years ago.
It seems unimaginable.
I know. Well, welcome to Season 4 of the Collaboration Conversation, a listener-supported video podcast where Christian artists, entrepreneurs, and friends share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. To what end? Of course, is always to share the good news of King Jesus. Today, we are very excited because you can see our setup is different. We've changed it up, and we also have a very special guest that we are doing for Season 3 opener. Normally, it's just the two of us.
Season 4 opener.
Season 4. That's fine. Season 4 opener.
Sorry.
This guy, 4. Today, our special guest is Billy LeJeune. Billy is my dad, and that's all you need to know about him. Just kidding. He is, he's obviously a husband and a dad to 3 kids, and we're all very different. He lives in Middle Tennessee and has for the last 25 years, originally from Jennings, Louisiana, and Southern California. I mean, we'll go through all of this, but We're very excited to have you on the podcast. Dad, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for finally getting around to me.
I know.
You've had my best friend on and lots of other friends,
but never me.
All of your friends have been on.
In my defense, I feel like I've asked about having you on for quite some time. I'm not throwing mom under the bus, but I feel like this isn't your thing. Like,
he's played hard to get.
Yes. Ooh, that's what it is.
Yes.
We finally snagged
I really wanted to be a season opener.
Well, here you are. Season opener. You got your wish. Well, Dad, how are you today?
I am great. I just drove 2.5 hours here.
Yep. I'm grateful.
I interviewed myself the whole way, and so I've kind of said all there is to say.
Is this your bid for comedian? You start doing stand-up?
Here we are.
Entertain
us.
Yes. Well, let's start off with just telling us a little bit about yourself. Tell us something we don't know.
Oh, my gosh.
Which would be very hard.
Me and my cousin hopped a moving train when we were kids.
And you didn't die. Good job.
Jumping on was hard, but jumping off was harder.
Fair. Yeah. But seriously, tell us about yourself.
Serious. I was born in Louisiana. I mean, do you want to know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So I grew up going to the Church of the Brethren in a tiny little town called Roanoke, Louisiana, that my grandfather and his dad literally built. I went through Sunday school there. I got my first Bible teaching there. Used to play with these little figurines of the apostles they had there up on the second floor. I guess that's where I fell in love with the Bible stories. That's kind of where the Bible part started for me with that group. I don't know where you want to go from there.
What happened next?
Did you meet anyone and
How old
get
am I?
married?
Did you meet anyone?
Are we jumping to that?
Well, how did you end up at Ozark? I've always wondered that.
So I have a good friend, Mark Broussard. He was a good friend and a drummer. We had a garage band, and I would play guitar. He would play drums, and we went to church together as well. And I was working at a gas station in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Mark was going to. He had already been to Dallas Christian College, I think a semester or a year, and said he was going to Joplin to Ozark Christian College, and it was at a time where I had been reading the Bible quite a bit as I had from an early age, and really had a lot of questions and didn't understand. So I thought, hey, I'm going to go to Bible college. I'll go with Mark. So I caught a ride with Mark, went up to Joplin. Then this one day, well, actually, the first time I saw Diane, we were playing football. There was a big group playing football. It was before school started. It was like everybody just got there, maybe checked into their dorms, and then we started a football game. And I noticed her. She probably didn't notice me because I'm not much of an athlete, and they had some athletes out there. But then the cafeteria was 2 stories, and then I'll never forget. I was sitting probably with Mark and some guys up on the second floor eating, and I looked down, and Diane and like her entourage walked in. She was kind of glowing, and
Jeez.
and I knew something was up. And so later we saw her. She sang a song out in the courtyard, and we wanted to do again. It was Bible and music are kind of the things that I love and that I spend a lot of time with. So we wanted to start a Christian band at school, and then we asked Diane to sing in our band. And that's how we met. I think she got to me after you dated the other guys first.
I dated the drummer and the keyboard player and then the guitar player. But that's only because you didn't ask.
Ooh.
If you'd asked, I would have said yes.
I love that he saw you
I was
first.
really focused on music and Bible up until then. Yeah.
Well, I'm very grateful that you left out the part where in that football game, the only play I was included in on my team was a kind of a long pass, and I dropped it.
You did. I remember that.
Yes, that was
Jeez.
kind of embarrassing.
In your defense, he threw it really hard.
Well, that's true, but it didn't matter. I was an athlete. I should have caught it.
You should have caught it. Yeah. Well, I always hear that story from your perspective. So hearing it from Dad's perspective, where he saw you first, is so cute.
I don't know that I knew that he saw me in the cafeteria. I've never heard that.
He said you were glowing.
Yeah,
with your entourage.
I don't think I was glowing.
You've never described that you had an entourage.
It was probably my roommate.
It was more than just your roommate, right?
That's so funny. Cool. So you went to Joplin. Then what happened?
Yeah, so, we were only there one semester. We decided to get married. So I moved back to Louisiana. Diane moved to California. And we worked to save up money so that we could get married. Again, I grew up working on cars, working in a gas station. And so I was back at a gas station again, changing oil and fixing tires and that kind of thing. And we would call like every night, I guess, and write letters even. I think that we still have letters down in the basement that we wrote to each other. Then we got married. We eventually moved to California. Then we had children, Beau, Sarah, and Jesse.
You're Sarah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I went to Pacific Christian College out in California, but still bitten by the Bible bug and really wanted that Bible education. And Pacific Christian College was great for me. I had some wonderful teachers, and that really got the ball rolling for me in biblical studies. Still continued music. I played in a band with two of the guys, Kenny Updegraff and Bob Bell, and I played with a Maranatha music leader, Stan Endicott, and a lot of praise band things. And then we started a rock band, and we met a guy from Cal State Fullerton, Mike Parisi, who was a great songwriter and great singer. And we played in Hollywood, and back then it was pay to play, so you had to like buy all your tickets and then try to sell them. And typically we played at a loss, but it was fun. And now what? Where do we go from there?
That's cool. Well, so you in California, you took your music studies a step further.
I actually started at Pacific Christian as a music major. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did about 2.5 years in their music program. But at the time, I don't think it's like this anymore, but no matter what your major was, you ended up with 40 biblical units. So you ended up with, I would have had a music degree and a Bible degree. I switched to education because I decided I want to be a teacher. So I still finished with a Bible degree and an education major, and then went across the street to Cal State Fullerton, got my teaching credentials, started teaching in Fullerton, California, and then moved to Doherty and taught there. I did my first 3 years teaching in California before we moved to Tennessee.
Well, but what about your time at GIT?
Yeah, so this was a life lesson for me. I had I taught my first year at Fullerton. First year teacher. I was real excited. I was a roving teacher. I didn't have a classroom. I was just picking up classes for other teachers so that they could have a break, basically. So my classroom was a cart that I would wheel from class to class. And I was really, thinking the next year, they'll put me in a classroom. And instead, they didn't hire me back. And I was devastated. So it was like one and done on this teaching thing. And I was really, really upset about it. And I got a letter in the mail from from Guitar Institute. It's Musicians Institute is what it is. GIT was the school. And they said I could go for half tuition. So I talked to Diane about it, and we finagled the expenses. She had a full-time job, and so I got to go to guitar school in Hollywood for a year. It was amazing. Everything that I had learned about music theory, from the classical perspective at college, they just taught it better at GIT. They taught it from a jazz perspective, and it just clicked. It made sense. I had a lot of gaps. I basically was self-taught, and I had a lot of gaps in my playing. Things I could do well, things that I didn't know at all, and they showed me like a system that I could have learned when I was 12, but I just didn't know it. But yeah, it was wonderful. Towards the end, I started getting headaches almost every afternoon because of the trying to practice enough, trying to make up maybe for lost time. I guess I wanted to be I wanted to be a studio guitar player, like a Steve Lukather or something like that, and just be able to play all different styles and be able to read music on the guitar, and it got to be overwhelming because I just couldn't spend the amount of time that you needed to do that. But still, I learned a lot, and it was one of the best years of my life as far as just getting to do what I loved, every day.
That's awesome.
And he's being humble. When he auditioned to get into GIT, he was placed in the advanced class with the chair of the department.
Oh, wow.
So he was like one of 32 or 22 or some number of students. And then when he graduated a year later, he graduated with honors from the advanced class.
Wow.
So yeah, he really worked
really good,
very hard.
Well, and by now, the quote is, it's been 10,000 hours and something in your master. I mean, you easily have over 10,000 hours.
I don't feel like a master.
Well, that's because you have a gift and a talent for knowledge, the yearning for knowledge, but I feel like you are definitely a master.
With both, I had to compare guitar to the Bible, but with both of the things that I love to study and practice and such, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know with both of them. Like we're studying Mark in Sunday school. I've read Mark countless times. But every time I read it, I see something that I didn't see before, and I get spiritual insight from it that I didn't see the time before. With the guitar, it's, there's so many different styles. You have guys that master jazz or master rock or master country style, and they're all phenomenal, and it's I like them all, and just like I say, every time I get something down, there's something more.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hear you, but I also have woken up to the 10,000 hours of guitar practice at the house before. Well, and you've played several different styles. So talk to us about the different bands you've been in over the years, because one of them included me, and I want you to get to that one eventually. But talk to me about the different styles of bands that you've been in over the years.
You were in a band with him? Me too.
Yeah, I know.
That one time.
Gosh, that one time.
So at the school where I still work, I'm finishing my 23rd year at Hillsborough Elementary and Middle School. When I first started working there, there was a PE coach. His name was Alan Rudd. Alan lives in Oklahoma. He still plays music. He's an incredible singer. Has just a great voice. And I was able to play music with him in the Alan Rudd band back when he was at Hillsborough before he went back to Oklahoma. It was so that was I did not grow up playing country music or even listening to much country music. So it was kind of like a rock guy in a country band. So it helped me. It made me a better player. I had to learn how to try to sound country in his band. But we did a gig with you as a vocalist.
That was fun.
It was fun. We did like some Dixie Chicks and some other
all kinds of girl country music.
It was a lot of fun.
Some Martina, yeah. Mm-hmm. It was super. Not that I can sing Martina, but it was super fun.
Yeah,
that was a good time. I'll always remember that.
I'm really glad that you jumped straight to the band that she was in. But I think you started playing when you were around 14 in clubs in Louisiana.
So, Trip Smith, my best friend, who you guys interviewed, he's had a heart transplant. It's a wonderful story, and he's a great guy. But he was a year younger than me. He's a year younger than me. And we used to play music in his garage. Mark Broussard, who I mentioned earlier, he played drums with us for a while, and we'd get other people in there. But we had a little band, and we learned, 70s rock songs. This was probably in the late 70s, and we got a gig. But my mom didn't want me to be in a rock band. She bought me my first guitar, but I think she made me promise not to be in a band.
Poor Granny.
Poor Dad.
She did. So the gig was a few miles away in another town, and I had to sneak out to go play my first gig. She found out later because some kids in that town went to our church. But yeah, we snuck out and we played this little dance on Main Street, and it's pronounced Iowa. It looks like Iowa, Louisiana. But it was had a great time. It was so much fun. I loved it. We were we were just kids, but we had a whole set list of songs, and we played and we sang, and it was fun.
Who was the singer? Was it Tripp?
Tripp sang a lot. We had I don't remember the other guys. At one point, Tripp had a cousin or something that was in the band. I sang a little bit.
Wasn't Tripp's cousin a drummer, I think?
No, the one I'm thinking of was a guitar player.
Oh, okay.
Well, just so that everybody can get a big picture on my life here, you have to my left my mom, who is a PK, a preacher's kid, massive rule follower, and on my right, I have my dad, who's sneaking out to play music gigs, and I'm the perfect combination of both.
That's so funny.
I try to be a good influence on you.
Yes, it's true. Well, okay, so you did that. I feel like there's a band called Silent Night in there somewhere.
So talk about Mike and Bob and Kenny. That was that band.
Well, yeah, you're jumping way ahead, though.
Oh, sorry.
So, I'm sure you had other bands before you went to college, but then we had a band in college.
Yes, we did. We played Too Late, the Amy Grant rock song, on the stage at Ozark Christian College.
Yes.
And almost got kicked out. It's my favorite story.
Yes, we have told that story on this podcast before.
It's good.
That was a big stage.
Yes, it was.
And I bet your electric guitar filled it out. Yeah.
The kids loved it, and the professors'
hated
mouths hung open like, what in the world is this?
Yes. But then after that...
We were progressive Christians long before it became a thing, I guess.
But after we got married, we moved to Louisiana, and we were in a band with Kim.
Yes, with Kim Roy, who was my guitar idol growing up, who I got to play music with, which is, I guess not everybody can say they got to play music with their idol, but he's a phenomenal guitar player, a good Christian guy, Kim Roy.
And he was the best man, one of the best men in our wedding.
Yep. Yeah, when we moved to, after we got married in California, then moved to Louisiana. I lived in Louisiana, and then we were in a band with Kim for a while. Wisdom, that band became Wisdom. They actually toured, went out to California and did some things, but we got married, and I guess we, I don't know, it wasn't a right fit for us or something.
Well, and then they went back to the name that they had before, Kingdom, and they're playing again like next month.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to get down there and see him.
Yeah, Kim's still playing. It's fairly phenomenal. So then now jump to Bob and Kenny in California, I guess.
Mike Parisi, guy, I met him. We were both. He was a Cal State Fullerton student. I was a Pacific Christian College student. The schools are right across the street from each other, but we both had the same guitar teacher, a classic teacher at Cal State. That's how I met Mike, and found out he was a songwriter and that he was a Christian, and we became really, really good friends. And he was such a prolific songwriter. I mean, he could write a song a day, pretty much, and they were good things. And I really wanted to be a writer. That was one of my big things in my life was to be a songwriter and to write music. And so for every 5 songs Mike would write, I'd churn one out, and then we'd go out and play them. And we played all over Orange County, and we had a couple of gigs in Hollywood. UCLA, but it was a lot of fun. It was, I remember, we'd go, just have this wonderful gig, play our, just put our hearts into it, and get home at 2:00 in the morning and lay down with your head, ringing from the sound, but really nothing to show for it. As far as, like I said, we would typically have to pay to play, in a place. And you're always wondering, is somebody going to see you that could, discover you or sign you to a deal and that kind of thing. And nobody ever did. That I think we were a really good band. We've got a few tapes of it, but yeah, it was a good time. But then it ended. Mike and I did a song. I wrote a song, or the music for a song at Jesse's apartment, and then I sent it to Mike a few years ago, and he finished it, and it's online somewhere, but I can't remember the name of it. Oh, Another Breakdown is the name of it. So we did one last collaboration, I guess. I guess it's last. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah.
But also, you talked about that you really wanted to be a songwriter, and I think one thing that we have talked about in the past, maybe not lately in an episode, but we have talked about in the past, is how you can use your gifts and your talents and these desires of your heart. It just doesn't have to be your vocation, right? That just because you're not doing it every single day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9, that'd be a long work day, 8 to 5, that it's not still something that God gave you. And I think it's really cool that you, even to this day, will still send us songs that you've written. I mean, you still write songs. You'll do this is one of my favorite things that you do. Tell us about it's like a February challenge.
Yeah, so I stumbled on this, I won't remember the address or anything, but it's write an album in the month of February. It's a website. It's some kind of, I don't know, there's an acronym that goes with it. And so I thought, hey, that's a cool idea. I'll see what I could do. So so in pretty much every month of February, I just try to create music, usually 7 or 8 different ideas. I'll work on it for maybe 3 days. I never finish anything during that time, but I'll get a beat, on a drum machine. I'll get a key that I want to try. And then I'll just start jamming to the drum machine. I almost always come up with something interesting, and then I try to develop it, work on it for 3 days, and then I go to another one. Different key, different beat, maybe different time signature. And I work on it for 3 days, and then those just kind of pile up. I have probably 120, unfinished bits of music like that. And then when something happens, like we have a COVID breakout and everybody has to stay home. We went to school for 3 quarters that COVID year, and then they sent us home, and I was home for the whole 4th quarter and then summer, and I finished 5 or 6 of those songs. I even wrote this song that was going to be the theme song for a podcast. It's a really good song.
I wonder what happened.
Wow. Maybe we'll play it here.
But
okay, in my defense, Mom wanted something totally different. That's not my fault.
That's fine.
It was good though.
Yeah.
Well, so just to kind of piggyback on what Sarah just said, while you might not be, a studio musician Monday through Friday and all of those kinds of things, you have still not only not perfected your craft, but worked towards perfecting your craft. But you use it in church. And
yes, and I get to play with Haley and Jake Johnson.
Oof, and they're so good.
And they're wonderful musicians. I love playing on their team. So I get usually every other Sunday, Haley asked me to play, and I love it when I was supposed to play tomorrow, but I couldn't because I'm here. But,
whoa!
No, it's
sorry to inconvenience you.
That gives other players a chance to play as well.
Well, and you were on the worship team at our previous church for 14 years, and there were.
I got to play with Rex Schnelly, who you guys also had on.
We sure did.
Jeez.
That's true. Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you get all your interviewees from me?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just about everybody.
Because I didn't know Rex aside from you. Yeah. No, but when even I had forgotten about that church, but the church in California. I mean, you were in that band for. I mean, you guys even went to youth conventions in Arizona and Missouri.
That was with Stan Endicott as the leader. And, and Bob and Kenny.
You have consistently played your entire life.
Yeah.
You've consistently used that talent that God has given you in many ways, and very often in church where we're specifically giving God the glory. So it's
totally,
it's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go
ahead. And you're currently teaching guitar.
Yes.
In the public schools.
Yes, I that is my kind of my side gig. I have an online guitar class for high schoolers who need the class to graduate and don't realize that till about the last quarter. But yeah, I teach a lot of different things, mostly computer related classes, but the guitar class is probably the one I'm most passionate about. And I do teach at Hillsborough. I teach. We have a 2-day-a-week guitar class for 6th and 7th graders.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cute.
I know. It's really, really sweet. Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just the other day, one of them was telling me how hard it is to play a certain chord, and I quoted Tom Hanks from It's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Yeah. It's the hard that makes it great.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. You really probably should have that like printed and like framed
tattoo.
Yeah, we can get a tattoo of it.
That's funny.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that's a great transition to teaching, unless you were going somewhere else.
I did want him to touch on his postgraduate study of New Testament theology, but we can
that sounds great.
Just because we were talking about education earlier.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about after you moved to Nashville. Well, first of all, how many colleges have you been to? This is a fun fact.
Oh my gosh!
I think
this is
I
a
have
trivia
a
question.
transcript from 16.
16 colleges, y'all. 16. Mom's looking puzzled.
Yeah, I don't think it's 16.
I think it's 6. I was gonna guess 13, but
It's a bunch.
it's a lot.
But it's not. It's like a class here and a class there, and I mean, I have credits from Portland State University.
Why?
I know.
What class did you take there?
It was a computer class that after I became a teacher, I got it through Williamson County Schools. It's just,
That's funny. Yeah. So yeah,
I took a class. They gave us college credit for it.
love it. Once you went to Nashville, you worked at a Mac store. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so I was, we just moved here. I was on my way to Metro schools in Nashville to put my application in, and the street that you turn on to go to Metro had it's not an Apple store. It's a reseller of Apple computers. So I stopped in there, put my application in, and I worked there for 2 years, and it was really beneficial because they were the Apple education reseller for the Southeast United States, and so I had teaching background, so they put me in that area. So I sold computers and educational software to schools, so it got me really familiar with the educational software was one, and so then I was able to use that when I got back into teaching.
Yeah. And then eventually you went and got a master's.
Yeah. So I had. For a long time, I had wanted to do some further work in Bible study in a master's program of some kind. And so I was somewhere along the line, I discovered a theologian named N.T. Wright, or Tom Wright, and read everything I could by him, and he was my favorite theologian, still is. He's the guy that inspired you guys to start this. So I was looking through at the time. Lipscomb University would post the syllabus syllabi online for their classes, and their theology school is called Hazelip School of Theology. And I was looking through their classes, and for their Romans class, I thought, well, I'm going to check the syllabus, and one of the required books was N.T. Wright's commentary on Romans, and that confirmed it for me.
Done deal.
Yeah. So I was able to go do their MTS program, Masters of Theological Studies. It's a great school. Really good teachers. It was challenging. We had to write a lot of papers and things like that. But it was what I needed. I needed that. And I had all this. I was reading and studying the Bible, pretty much every day, and I just needed something more. And that degree, it helped me to get where I wanted to be, or at least further along where I wanted to be.
Totally.
And he actually skipped over the other masters that he got prior.
True. 2 masters.
Yeah, in supervision.
Education.
Education. I thought I wanted to be a principal. I probably knew I didn't want to be a principal because being a principal is not being a teacher, and I believe that God wanted me to be a teacher. I really just wanted more money. So,
well, now you have it
make
just in
more
case.
money.
Yes.
Well, and if I can just add an anecdotal story here, when you were at the Mac store, you were in the back in outside sales. Mm-hmm. And one day they were super busy out front, so they asked you if you wouldn't mind to come out front and to help somebody. And so you, of course, the nice guy that you are, came out there. And there was a lady who was looking to buy a computer for her boss, or no, they had just bought one and they had no idea even practically how to turn it on, kind of a thing. So you were carefully, step by step, walking her through how to turn it on and how she can use it and how she can find things. And she said to you, you're really good at this, teaching people. Have you ever thought about being a teacher? And you're like, well, yeah, I am a teacher. I just can't I can't find a job right now either in Davidson County or Williamson County. And she was the superintendent of Davidson County Schools assistant. And she had you an interview the next day.
Yeah.
It was so funny so for me, that just so confirmed that teaching is 100% a God-given gift for you.
Yeah.
Well, and during that time when I was driving to work every day, it was confirmed to me every time I would pass by a school, it would just tug at me like, I'm supposed to be in the classroom, and here I am working at a computer store. But there was a reason for me to be at the computer store for a couple of years. It really paid off when I got back into teaching.
Oh, for sure.
And I was the only one that knew how to use a computer, and all of a sudden there was a computer in everybody's classroom, and people kept coming to me every day asking me how to help.
Totally.
So
made you an invaluable commodity.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, so we were talking about teaching being a talent of yours. As you know, we'd like to talk about talents and gifts. And we like to preface it that we know that this is a very privileged conversation to have, that, some people's lives don't afford the opportunity to just, sit back and think about your talents and gifts. And so we always want to make sure we acknowledge that. But also, we live in a very privileged society where we get to do that. And so with that comes responsibility to cultivate and to dive into your talents and gifts and to really be purposeful about how you're using them for the kingdom of God. And so we always love naming it. We want to make sure that the folks who are listening, the folks who we have on our podcast, are naming what they are so that they can go and, do good works with them. And so we know teaching, obviously. We know music, obviously. I mean, it's like not even a question. What are some other talents and gifts that you think you have?
I think I'm a great father.
Yes, it's true.
And husband.
Confirmed.
Amen. Those aren't
God,
talents and gifts.
Then family.
Yes.
Then music and teaching and whatever.
Absolutely. But I also think that, like, in your own way, it's really cool because I think that you're one of the most unique people I know. Oh gosh, I'm really gonna try not to get emotional during this interview. But like the way that I think of like people encouraging others and like exhortation, you are so encouraging in like your own very unique way. And so I've always found that you are a very good encourager. So I'm going to name that one for you too.
Well, and would you not say discernment?
It's probably better if other people tell me what I'm good at, I suppose. But,
well, no. I mean, that's part of the deal here, right? God has given us a gift. We figure out what it is, and then if we pay attention, and you are, we cultivate that, right? We spend time because, and Sarah alluded to that, God has given us good works to do that He has prepared in advance in Christ Jesus. We know that from Ephesians, and we need to be all about that. I mean, that scripture kind of came to the forefront for us through Drew's teaching in your Sunday school class, and it's that idea of it's not about me, it's not about my gifts, right? It's about what God's doing. So for you to be able to say, I'm a pretty good communicator. I teach Sunday morning at our church every other week. I teach Wednesday night every 3 weeks. But for a while, you were the only teacher. I mean, you taught every Sunday morning, year round. But it's just that idea, because even when we did the very first episode, you asked me what mine were, and I was so hesitant. So that's just part of this. If you don't know what they are, then you're definitely not using them. Right.
Well, I do think that I have the ability to explain things pretty well. For let's say when I first started, going to Bible college and studying the Bible, and I wanted to figure it out for myself. I wanted to know how the Bible worked. A big one was I wanted to know why God in the Old Testament seemed vengeful and wrathful, and Jesus in the New Testament seemed kind and peaceful, and yet they're the same, the Father and the Son, not the same, but I'm a Trinitarian. Father, Son, Spirit.
Yes.
It's not,
I'm with you.
I don't want people to criticize me, but so I worked, really hard and at that and read theologians and I came to a realization one time that there are people that do this. There are, phenomenal theologians that know everything there is to know of the Bible and know Greek and Hebrew and all this, and they don't even believe. There's some of the university teachers that they teach it, but it's, anyway, I came to the realization that it's not just the knowledge. The only reason to study the Bible, or the main reason to study the Bible and to read the Scriptures, is to grow spiritually. It's to let it change you. Now, you do need to know how the story goes. That's still a big part of it, how the story goes and how it works. But at the same time, you also, like I said, you need to change your life. So those are the two things I think of when I'm writing a Bible lesson. Explaining the story, how this section that we're reading fits in the entire biblical story. But then also, how does it affect our lives? How does it change our lives? How does the Spirit want us to leave this class changed? So I don't know, that was an eye-opening thing. With also in school, I had a moment where when I first started teaching, it seems like every year I had this one different kid every year, that was like a problem child. You had this great lesson and everybody was paying attention. Then you have one kid, blowing it up because they're making a noise, flipping the desk over or something. And so in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, man, if I just didn't have this kid, everything would be wonderful. And then the next year, if I just didn't have this kid, everything would be wonderful. And then, I don't know, God just told me, those kids are supposed to be in your class. They're supposed to be with you. And that changed for me because instead of thinking, I wish this kid wouldn't hear, I started thinking this kid's here for a reason. Yeah. They're going to cause a ruckus and the lesson's not going to go the way I planned it, but how I handle it, how I talk to that child, that's why I'm in the classroom. Even and that I've evolved, I think, as a teacher in that way. It's more than just knowing the content that you're teaching, more than just presenting it. It's you have to get to know the kids. You have to let the kids know that you care for them. So I spend a few minutes every class talking to the kids. Sometimes I'll pose some sort of a question for them to think about, a moral question or something. But, just for us to talk and touch base and let them tell me, what they did over the weekend and that kind of thing. And then we get on to robotics or guitar or whatever I'm teaching. But those are the lessons that I've learned that you guys were talking about gifts and talents. I don't know if it's a gift and talent as much as it is, maybe it's an insight that has, I don't know, that's come on me over the years that have helped me to change and grow. Right?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just say I see that in you, and I mentioned kind of touched based on it earlier that you just are constantly seeking knowledge. You're a knowledge seeker, but you also are like a grow seeker.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like I feel like in a lot of ways you're always growing and.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when we first moved to Tennessee after you worked at the Apple Store, and you got hired on at the school where you've been there for 25 years, which is just phenomenal. I remember one year especially. I mean, and there's countless stories like this, but feeling really proud of you because in a day and age, and it's not even getting any better. And like again, this is 20 years ago. You were really a father figure to lots of kids who have either horrible fathers or none at all. And you weren't really, you didn't take them to their ball game and go to their basketball game, but you lots of these kids saw you in the community, and I loved that you just had a compassion on them. You go every year. It's so annoying because I have to go with you to the Leapers Fork Christmas parade, and there's no seats. We just stand there for like 3 hours, which is fine. But all these kids get to see you, and they're Mr. LeJeune, and they're yelling and they're waving, and it's so sweet and so cute. But the story that comes to mind for me, and I typically tell the story better than it actually happened, so you might need to correct a few of the details. But I just remember a little girl coming into your classroom, and I think she was by the door, and she kind of kneeled down or squatted down, and you were like, and there was nobody in the classroom yet, or it was like at the end of the classroom or end of the class period or whatever, and she was crying, and you asked her what was wrong, and she said that she just felt little, and that nobody loved her and nobody cared about her, and her parents were going through a divorce, and you were able to just kind of minister to her in probably a way that nobody else would have been able to. I mean, you were a 4th grade school teacher. I mean, that is the coolest job. I mean, not the coolest, but you know what I mean? It's not like you're a Fonzie or anything, but you know what I'm saying? Just that you are just such a blessing to these little kids.
Well, it is good for them to have a male teacher in elementary school, and there aren't many. In one of the schools I student taught at in California, the only 2 males were me and the janitor.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And don't get me wrong, I work with some wonderful female teachers at every school I've been at. And we've had a lot of turnover at the school where I am now, and they just keep getting wonderful teachers after wonderful teachers. But every now and then there'll be a guy in the elementary wing of the school, and I think it makes a tremendous difference to the kids. They need to see that. They need to have that. There's no way you cannot be a father figure if you're with these children for as much time as you are. So I always I got into teaching because I believe I was led there by God. That was the occupation I was supposed to have. And so to be a good example, to be an example of a male who doesn't yell and get angry and say shut up and can handle things well, and for them to see that, I think that's one of the lessons that I want to teach is, guys can behave godly. Even if I can't talk about God in the classroom,
totally.
I can behave godly.
Yep, and you do. Thank you.
I wish I had him as a teacher. I remember coming in 5th grade finally to Hillsboro, and everyone was like, "You're Mr. LeJeune's daughter. He's my favorite teacher." I was so jealous that I didn't get to. I don't even know if they would have put me in that class. They would not have put you in that class. Yeah, but I'm jealous. That's fine. I'm fine.
Well, and Jesse didn't have him either.
Well, that's true.
I mean, that would be weird to be in the class. Talk about favorites. Holy Toledo. Well, children,
no.
Sarah, what are you going to do today?
Or worse, Dad would be like, "You can do better."
Oh no, I don't think that's. Which
everybody but Sarah can answer this question.
Everybody, yeah, that's exactly right. I know.
That's so funny. I feel like it would be like, okay, children, what is Sarah going to do? Let's model what Sarah's going to do today.
It could be either, but I feel like the former is more likely than anything.
That's funny.
So something we wanted to do in season 4, we want to turn up the notch on the Jesus talk in our podcast this season. And one thing that we just want to start asking our guests is a simple question, which is, if you could say one, I say simple, it's difficult, but it's just a basic question, which is, if you could share with our listeners one thing about Jesus, whether it's about his character or what he's meant to you, what would it be?
One thing about Jesus. Well, I have to start with his compassion, but he was a lot more than that, right? I mean, what we all need is his compassion. Because, like I said, we're studying the Gospel of Mark, and throughout, one of the themes that comes out there is that people are blind. It's not we're blind to God. We can't hear God's message. We don't know. It's blindness is a metaphor. When Jesus heals a blind person, typically the way it works in Mark is it's a metaphor for us not being able to see, not visually, but not be able to see God and to see how we're supposed to be. And we're really messed up. Mm-hmm. We're children of Adam, and Adam messed up. And God is compassionate. Jesus is compassionate. But he's also stern, when they wake him up, when he's sleeping in the boat, it's like, why are you afraid? Or when Peter pulls him aside and says, you can't go off and die. You're the Messiah. And Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. You're thinking in terms of men. Same thing when the disciples are saying, who's going to be greatest when you're the Messiah and you're sitting on your throne. And Jesus tells them it's not about being great. If you want to be great, you have to serve. How what a question. How can you pinpoint Jesus on one thing?
Well, what came to mind is that on Wednesday nights we're going through a Bible project series on 5 attributes. So I totally thought you were just going to start listing those. Because
compassion is the first one.
Compassion is the first one, but grace is the second. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if I ever get asked that question, I think grace it would be my answer. Yeah. You're right. He's so complex, but it's been very interesting just to hear folks take.
Oh, totally. We've had
great answers.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I change my answer to he's not a tame lion?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's a good one. I love that.
Yeah.
You sure can change your answer to that. That's great. Well, and we always, for the first 3 seasons, this has been awesome, but we've hinted and talked about to what end here and there. But I just really feel like this season I want to hone in on what we're doing and to what end. And of course, that is to share the good news of King Jesus. Yeah. So if you don't know Jesus or you don't have a relationship with him, we have some resources for you at projectbrickworks.org/Jesus for you to learn about him and to learn just what an incredible, how your life can be drastically changed by our Heavenly Father and our Savior. So it's just really cool. And so go check that out if you want.
Yep, do that.
So, segue, I guess. I'm not sure how you segue out of that. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about what you have coming up, I guess. We always try to ask that. But what do you see in the future for you as far as, do you want to go back to school, get any more education? Are you going to start a podcast? I really think you should start a podcast.
You should have seen his face.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. Well, because I'm a Christian, I'm going to live forever.
Excellent. We love that.
So I'm going to eventually get to be a really good guitar player. And I'll understand the Bible story really well.
Yep, 100%.
So the things that I like doing, I think will be fulfilled. I have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Or in the next world.
In the next world. True that.
On this earth, I guess... I have summer coming up. So hopefully, like I said, I have 120 unfinished pieces of music. Maybe I'll knock out 4 or 5 of them over the summer. Going on a cruise, our first cruise.
Woot.
With you guys.
So exciting.
Going to the Bahamas, which I got to pick that destination. So hopefully it'll be wonderful. Yesterday I played, we had a talent show. We have a talent show at our school called Hillstock. It's kind of a pun on Hillsborough and Woodstock.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Wow.
Oh, I had never thought of that before.
It's a play on words. And we put together a teacher band, and we rocked. It was awesome. We had a horn section, and I played guitar, and we had a rhythm section and singers. And
What'd you play?
We did Proud Mary, the Tina Turner version with the horns, and it was wonderful. And then we played a somewhat inappropriate song called Uptown Funk. But we cut out the inappropriate parts. But,
as you should.
But the horns, our principal was up there playing horn, and they sounded so good.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And the kids loved it.
Oh, yeah.
They went crazy.
Oh, I bet. Were you there?
No.
Oh.
I was with you.
I was like, how do you know?
Well, he told me.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Finally.
It was fun.
No.
We'll probably do it again. There's so many things that we can learn from you and that I would like to share with our guests. And so we'll probably have you again someday.
Well, and
maybe he can be our first recurring guest.
Well, there you go. Well, and there's a lot that we didn't cover. You and Sarah have a very unique relationship, and maybe even with the boys, of quoting movie lines. You did it twice.
We did
in this episode, but also trivia. Your insane knowledge of useless trivia is so impressive.
But also useful trivia. You can win gift cards.
That's right. We won.
There's
50
tons of trivia on
did.
cruises,
$50.
so I'm
Is
sure.
there?
Yes, I'm sure we'll cruise trivia it up.
Yeah.
But yes, there's lots we didn't cover. There. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just so grateful that you came today and that you've been so supportive of what we're doing.
Oh my
and
gosh, yes.
Well, I think what you guys are doing is awesome, and just for me to be able to have a chance to share. I've never been interviewed before, and it's just really neat. And for you guys to interview, my friends and all the other folks that you've had on here, and just for them to have a chance. We all think about what we would say if somebody ever asked us.
Yeah.
And this is a chance to do it. So I'm so glad that you guys have that, and it's just progressed into something really great.
Well, we are grateful for all of the list of friends that you give us, and just keep that list coming.
Just keep the list coming of people.
In fact, we have another interview later today with a teacher that you
Former Hillsborough teacher.
Yes.
that you taught with back in the day.
Luke.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Dad. Love you.
Love you too.
I appreciate
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys, for listening to our episode with Billy LeJeune. This podcast is only made possible through our generous listeners and friends like you, and so we are very grateful to all of our supporters. If you would like to sponsor an episode of this podcast, you can head over to thecollaborationconversation.org and click sponsor an episode.
For more information on Project Brickworks, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Subscribe to our newsletter or text BRICK to 55498 to get the latest news and updates. We love you all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time. Bye.